Here's an idea for you. Geek culture has become mainstream. The thing people 20, 30 years ago would never have thought would have happened in 1996, 95, 96. We would never have thought this could have happened. We would never have thought geek culture, comic books, sci-fi TV, sci-fi movies, comic book movies, etc., is so now mainstream that it's practically cool. Right. 20 years ago, when I was 11, I started high school and there was a Doctor Who club. And all that was at that Doctor Who clubs were geeks. And we would sit there, watch an episode of the original run of Doctor Who, not the remake, the original run, because the remake didn't start till 2004, so this was 13 years before that. We'd have our Doctor Who little fact sheet with information about the bad guys, so it would be when they first appeared, their special powers, etc, and we would huddle in a teeny tiny, it wasn't even a classroom, it was like this cupboard in the middle of a corridor that was kind of like a reverse version of the TARDIS. It looked bigger on the outside than it was on the inside. And we would huddle in there and we would watch Doctor Who. Thinking about it, thinking back now, that was freaking nerdy. That was quite geeky. However, fast forward 20 years, and the idea of huddling yourself in a room watching Doctor Who, it seems ridiculous. You'd probably have more people in the classroom. You'd probably have a bigger classroom. You'd probably have a lot more people. And this has only happened in, say, the last 10 years. And started noticing this, I don't know, 2 years ago maybe. I tried to keep my head in the sand about this, but 2 years ago I started noticing people were really turned on to this. But why? Why is geek culture so mainstream? And I think the main oomph of this, the main thing that's caused this, has been Disney. Yep, Walt Disney have bought, seem to be buying everything. They bought Lucasfilms, they bought Marvel, they have ABC, the TV company, and they've realised they're onto a money grabber with this, especially with Marvel and Star Wars. So they've pumped out this cinematic universe, this Marvel cinematic universe, which is brilliant. If you watch, I don't watch the individual Avengers films, but I've seen parts and you can't deny they're great films. Then they've expanded that onto TV. Agent Carter, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And they keep on producing and producing more and more material that is going to all converge at one point. I think in these next two Avengers films, it seems like it's all going to converge, this whole universe. Minus the Agent Carter, because it's set in the 50s. In the 40s, but it's all going to go up and converge into some point. So you got that, you got them producing what is an amazing cinematic universe with Marvel. Then they've got the hands on Lucasfilms, and they're pumping out one after another, after another, after another, after another Star Wars films. So you had Episode 8, which was a non-stop action-packed film, which, you know what, I'm not even going to say it's my favourite. It's a good, but it's not like The Empire Strikes Back or Star Wars. the New Hope, the fourth one. And then they've done Rogue One. They're doing a Han Solo side, so it's pumping it out, pumping it out, pumping it out. It's a money grabber, but it keeps people interested. Then you've got DC, who have tried to make, and from what I understand, have failed at their version of a cinematic universe. But it keeps it in the public eye. It keeps it in the minds of the people, which I think's important in here, because it's keeping it in the mind. And people are paying to watch this. People are doing reviews on this. People are going around and going, yeah, that works. But I think there's also been elements of some really good TV shows that have pushed this culture forward. And back in the 90s, apart from watching Doctor Who in a small cupboard, I used to watch Star Trek The Next Generation, DS9, Voyager, and there would have been loads of people who would have avoided that. It was like, no way, not for them. But when you think about The Big Bang Theory, a show which has been there, kind of like a ha ha ha, you nerds, but has evolved into this lovable thing where people are loving geeks and nerds, and it's introduced people to Star Trek, it's introduced people to the Alphas, all these shows that have been around for the last 10 years, which probably most people would have ignored. Then, if you think how successful Doctor Who has been, the second run of Doctor Who has been really successful, and they've been able to spin off with the Sarah Jane Adventures, Torchwood, and that new one about a school, which I don't know what it's called. I've only seen a bit of it. I didn't even know it was there, but they've been able to produce that, and those shows have been brilliantly made. Torchwood in particular, my favourite out of all three, because I've seen Doctor Who, I've seen Torchwood, and I've seen a few episodes of the Sarah Jane Adventures, and Torchwood is by far my favourite. Those shows have been in the public eye for a while, so they've been helping, like, this whole geek thing, geek culture, and it's amazing. Torchwood came out just over 10 years ago, and my flatmate at the time says, "You're not watching that, that's dead nerdy." That's how much things have changed in 10 years. But now, because the likes of Doctor Who, the likes of The Big Bang Theory, have been able to push it into the mainstream, we're now getting a lot. Oh, Lost. Lost is another perfect example that's pushed sci-fi into the mainstream. However, it's now getting a bit oversaturated, and you can see this from left, right, and centre. I was watching 12 Monkeys, last video, did a review for, and the first thing that came into my head was, this really is like the Sarah Connor Chronicles from about 10 years ago. And I was thinking around and going, there's so many science fiction shows that I feel is subpar. And granted, this is my opinion. I'm just putting the my opinion disclaimer in at this moment, because someone's going to disagree with me. But The 100, for me, I saw a few episodes, it was subpar. Gotham, I absolutely hated. I felt it was subpar. Merlin, which I thought started off great but went downhill. Misfits, not subpar. Actually, take Misfits off that list, because Misfits is actually a good show. But it's constantly, they're just now producing show after 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 show. There's that whole DC, Daredevil, Arrow, Wonder Woman that's being pumped out and pumped out. It's like we're in a second, no, I won't even say a second, a third age, golden age of sci-fi. We had the 60s. We had the 90s that ended with Battlestar. And I'm sorry, but it ended with Battlestar. But now we have this oversaturated golden age where people just coming up with any idea and running with it. but it does help in keeping them the public consciousness. And I forgot what this original point was here now, actually. So yeah, has it become mainstream? Yes, it has, and it has helped with the likes of The Big Bang Theory, the likes with Paramount wanting to remake Star Trek and do it well and bring in some really good bad guy actors. Eric Bana, Benedict Cumberbatch was brilliant, Idris Elba, who I thought was a bit. Idris Elba could have done better, but they'll keep it in the public consciousness because they'll keep on making it, and it has become mainstream. And the question is there a point where people are just going to turn off it? And as a geek, I enjoyed the a bit marginalisation, so to speak. I think it's my inner hipster. It wasn't popular, that's what made me like it. The stories were great, everything was great, but the fact it was geek culture and no one liked it made me like it. And now people liking it in droves, and it turns me off it. I think it's like my inner hipster, but it's a mainstream genre. So yeah, it's become mainstream. Everybody loves it. It's oversaturated, in my opinion. So what's the future? All this stuff comes and goes. It goes around in circles. You see this with other genres, like the chick flick. I think there's probably a few chick flicks that have killed off that genre. There was a few years ago when horror films were oversaturated. Now they've died off back for science fiction films, but I expect to see that to come back because we had it in the 70s and 80s, we had it in the 90s and noughties. We just need someone to come out and bring in another great franchise of that. But I think sci-fi will eventually drop off. I can't say. Well, sci-fi and geek culture will drop off. I can't say when, because it looks like it's going incredibly strong right now. But it will happen. But only time will tell. So, to sum up, geek culture is very mainstream at the moment. However, I do believe it's going to drop out. And that's it. That was kind of like a rambling ramble. Going around, rambling all around. Anyway, I'll see you next time. Peace.